96. Later in the program, we look at the growth rates of prominent industrial sectors. But first, the important headlines of the week.
The Reserve Bank of India, or the RBI, has allowed corporates to issue commercial papers or CP up to 100% of their cash credit component. This is expected to give a boost to the waning CP market. In the case of borrowers with the maximum permissible bank finance between 100 million rupees and 200 million rupees, the amount of CP will still be restricted to 75% of the cash credit component. The RBI has also announced guidelines to extend liquidity support to approved public and private sector mutual funds dedicated exclusively to investments in government securities, including treasury bills. A survey conducted on 120 companies by the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industries has revealed an unprecedented upbeat mood on the export front in textiles, machine tools, bicycles and the automobile sector, among others. Exporters want the removal of bottlenecks in areas such as advanced licenses, countervailing duty, EPCG scheme, passbook scheme and deemed exports. The boards of Brook Bond Lipton India Limited, or BDIL, and Hindustan Lever, or HLL, on the 20th of April separately approved the proposed amalgamation of the two consumer goods giants with retrospective effect from the 1st of January 1996, subject to necessary approvals. The merger will make the new entity the third largest company in the country. The board proposed that 20 shares of Brook Bond be exchanged for 9 shares of Hindustan Lever. However, the stock market reacted adversely to the merger on expectations that their swap ratio for merger may not turn out to be favorable. Following the merger, all Brook Bond staffers will become employees of HLL. The Central Electricity Authority has authorized the techno-economic clearance of the 1,000 megawatt Cogentrix thermal power plant near Mangalore. Project costs have been cut down to 39.5 billion rupees from 39.98 billion rupees. The project was opposed by environmentalists and local residents in the coastal region, but received the support of the state government. The Supreme Court on Tuesday directed the grounding of 3 East-West Airlines aircraft as it had breached the court's order of April 2nd, which had directed the airline to pay $700,000 and future rentals to PLM equipment by April 15th. The airlines had taken these aircraft on lease 3 years ago, following which it defaulted on lease rentals to PLM. The default amount is $3.3 million. Meanwhile, the Securities and Exchange Board of India, or SEBI, rejected NEPC's takeover bid for Modiluk, stating that it was a conditional offer. Assam Chief Minister Hiteshwar Saikia died on Monday following a cardiac arrest at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences in New Delhi. The veteran Congress leader was suffering from kidney failure. Himachal Pradesh Governor Sheila Kaul, whose role in the housing scam had come in for scrutiny by the Central Board of Investigation of the CBI and the Supreme Court, resigned on April 21st, ending a constitutional crisis because of her reluctance to quit. The governor procured anticipatory bail and was asked not to leave the country without the permission of the Himachal High Court.
That was a look at the week's headlines. After the break, healthy bottom lines for the Indian corporate sector. Stay with us.
Meet Dorothy. She's recently divorced and living in Miami with her best friends.
Back off, Blanche. Not all of us are classified by the Navy as a friendly port.
Rose, pick that up.
And her mom.
We can catch up with old times.
I had a stroke. Luckily, my memories of you were wiped out.
Boldly facing the future.
This old woman was in the mirror. I didn't even recognize her.
Who was it?
Winner of 10 Emmys, The Golden Girls, Wednesday night at 8 India on Star Plus.
According to a Scottish legend, when you taste a Scotch whiskey, you can hear a piper play. But only when it's exceptional can you hear 100. Seagram's 100 Pipers Deluxe Scotch Whiskey. Every sip is pure music.
If you don't know what's cool and what's not in Asia, it's not too late to change. Watch the Coca-Cola Asian Top 20 Countdown. It's your chance to catch up with Asia's most happening videos. And hey, your grades won't go down, and your grandma won't mind too much. Just make sure you know what's hip before she does. The Coca-Cola Asian Top 20 Countdown. Today, 5 p.m. Hong Kong and Taiwan, 2:30 India. Keep up or be left out.
I turned my face away. I turned it back, you wag your tail. Either you love me very much, or your short-term memory is shot.
The Emmy-winning Empty Nest, Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. India on Star Plus.
Welcome back to India Business Week. Corporate results for the financial year 1995-96 will be announced soon, and all indications point towards continued healthy growth. Despite a severe shortage of power and the liquidity crunch, most companies are expected to post impressive results. But while some sectors have performed spectacularly, others have been sluggish. What is more, these growth rates may not be sustainable in the future. Udayan Mukherjee reports.
The financial year 1995-96 has come to an end. It is now time for companies to announce their annual results. The reporting season has begun and company results have already started trickling in. As always, there is intense speculation among the investing public surrounding the performance of the corporate sector. The last few years have seen the Indian corporate sector posting really robust performances, both in terms of turnover and profits. Research institutions are busy looking into the expected performances of different industry groups. And it looks that blue chip companies will once again experience high growth rates in revenue and profits. Indeed, on an average, Indian companies look all set for another glittering performance.
The 96 reporting season has already started. What we think is that the companies will continue the robust profit performance that they have been showing for the last 2 years. Of course, keeping in mind the fact that last year the profits growth was about 48%. We expect some fall because of the higher base, but it will be a very strong 23% again. And even in terms of turnover, you can look at a 21-22% growth in turnover for the Indian corporate bodies as a whole.
The government recently did a survey for about 1,350 companies, and they said that the turnover growth is in the region of about 30%, and the net profit growth is in the region of about 40% for the first 6 months of this fiscal. Looking at the larger companies within our research universe, I would tend to agree with those figures for the full year. I mean, the larger sample does indicate that some of those companies have grown much slowly than the larger noticeable ones. But overall, for the full year, if you look at the larger companies, the most prominent ones, top of the mind recall, 30% on sales side and about 38 to maybe 40% on the profit side for the full year should be fine.
This good overall performance will be studded by some truly sterling performances. The automobile industry is widely tipped to record the best results. Also coming up with very heartening results will be cement companies, software, aluminium and the banking sector.
I'd expect to see very interesting results from the auto industry. There's been strong demand, strong production, healthy consumer demand for the majority of the year. And therefore auto ancillaries also should be producing very good results. Some other industries which I think have done well are cement, steel, and some sectors of steel have done very well. Software exports I think should do well. The pharma industry has shown strong growth. So some of these industries I think are going to turn out, a high performance over the course of the year.
Some very strong performances will be seen in the areas of cement. You'll see ACC and Gujarat Ambuja Cement showing very good results. Gujarat Ambuja a little later from now, but you'll see very good results. Banking will show very good results. You'll see automobile companies showing very good results. They've shown very good results even in the first half, but second half should be even better. Information technology is another area where you will see a lot of good results. Infosys has already shown extremely good results. And aluminium again. Nalco has shown very good results already. Hindalco should also post very good results.
However, the mood can be partly dampened by the poor performance of certain industrial sectors. The virtual flood of consumer durables into the Indian market has seen competition hot up to such a pitch that market players are seeing their profit margins disappearing fast in their bid to capture market share. Consumer durable companies will most likely be the worst performers for this year. Textiles and shipping are also expected to post lackluster performances.
There have been some industries which have had a patchy year. Consumer electronics, I think in particular, is going to find it a bit awkward to show large results. Textiles has had a sort of average year. Some middle-of-the-road industries, I think, are going to be, as I referred earlier, parts of steel and capital goods, although it's going to show strong growth for this year. It actually had 2 or 3 years of negative growth post-liberalization because of reduction in import tariffs. Whether that's sustainable will be an issue to watch.
Most industries will perform well. However, you might have exceptions like consumer durables, where we are looking at a flat profit growth, shipping, where you might see a small decline. Now, consumer durables, there have been too many international players who have come into the market. You know, they've been attracted by the large Indian market. But right now, everybody is fighting for market share. And therefore, the marketing expenses are going to hit the bottom line, and the margins are being squeezed. So you're looking at falling margins out there. In terms of shipping, again, internationally, the shipping cycle, we are not seeing the Baltic Freight Index doing much. It's been quite weak, and therefore we do not expect shipping earnings to be anything significant this year.
But these hiccups notwithstanding, credit must be given to the industry for standing up to the numerous bottlenecks it had to confront this year. Severe liquidity tightness, chronic power shortages, and inadequate infrastructure growth posed mammoth hurdles for industrial production this year. In retrospect, the performance of corporates could have been even much better had it not been for these crippling factors.
Where I say results are going to be excellent, they could have been much better had not we had a severe liquidity crisis in the last 3 or 4 months. I think there are 3 or 4 factors which have impinged on growth and profitability, and they could actually have possibly a stronger impact next year. The liquidity crunch and high interest rates, which have been around for a few months, if not rectified, could head us towards a mini recession. The second major factor really which has affected some industries is the infrastructure deficiencies, particularly power sector. I think cement in a number of areas has been hit by lack of power, fertilizer has been hit, steel has been hit, and you visit certain cities around the country which were regarded as dream cities a few years ago, such as Bangalore. They're becoming almost impossible to live in, power cuts 14, 15 times a day, and that's severely impacting our ability to grow at a much faster rate.
I see that competition will start eroding the profit margins. Not necessarily the rates of return on capital employed, not necessarily, but I do see that for companies which are not going to command a greater and a greater market share and through increased volumes of production and sales, yes, I see profit margins shrinking.
However, the worst impact of the liquidity crunch is yet to come. And with competition hotting up in the Indian industry, it will become increasingly difficult for Indian companies to sustain the current growth rates. The coming years might not see the strong performances that have been witnessed by the corporate sector in the last couple of years.
The Indian corporate sector, will the growth rates sustain? Coming up, what are the real election issues? Find out after the break.
Every Sunday, Amul India Show brings you the biggest events, the hottest trends, and the best-known faces from around the nation. If it's happening in India, it's on Amul India Show. Today at 10:30 on Star Plus.
According to a Scottish legend, when you taste a Scotch whisky, you can hear a piper play. But only when it's exceptional can you hear 100. Seagram's 100 Pipers Deluxe Scotch Whisky. Every sip is pure music.
The thing that makes me happy is driving my car. Press the gas pedal and it takes me far. When I get home, I grab my guitar. The sound of music fills the air and I'm a star. Don't really care if I can read all right. Just playing my guitar makes me feel all right. Yeah, yeah.
Sansui Privy, one of the few things in life you can call your own.
Sansui, for those who know their music. From Videocon.
I could either support my dad in the retirement home or buy this creation. I'm sorry, Dad.
I have been banned from entering cinema halls.
It's freedom for the fashion victim. Every week, Pantaloon Fashion Police takes you to the wearable side of the sewing machine. Grab a big bite of Bollywood on Film Flam. Raid celebrity closets with Trenchcoat Tombe, plus fashion critic Mr. Haute Couture, budget fashion, and much more. It's fashion you can use. Pantaloon Fashion Police. Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. India. It's fashion channeled in Ish style.
Monday, on a touch of frost, a robbery goes wrong.
There's been a shooting at Boxley's.
But catching the murderer,
Number 7,
means the danger has just begun.
He could be dead. God knows how they missed.
But there's something strange going on.
Why threaten the witness? I mean, if they got 15 grand, they would have cleared out and let Penrice go down.
Can Frost figure it out before he has 2 murders on his hands? A Touch of Frost, Monday night at 8 India on Star Plus.
Welcome back to India Business Week. Last week, we focused on the economic reforms as an electoral issue. But while liberalization may be a major concern for big business, the vast majority of Indian voters are worried about bread and butter issues. Jobs, food and water are of critical importance, and they're not too impressed by the reforms process. India Business Week correspondents traveled to different parts of the country to gauge the mood of the Indian voter.
हमारे पढ़े लिखे बच्चे लोग आए, भाई लोग आए, समझो गांव में बहुत से ऐसे छोकरे लोग आए, उसको नौकरी मिलना मांगता है, उसको समझो केमिकल का कुछ मालूम नहीं तो उसको ट्रेनिंग देना मांगता है કંપની વાળાને.
દેશનું કેટલું ભલું કરશે અને કેન્ડિડેટનો પાછલો શું અનુભવ છે એ જોયા પછી જ દરેક જણાએ મત નાખવો એવી મારી ઈચ્છા છે.
कोई पार्टी कुछ काम तो नहीं करती है इसलिए नहीं देते हैं वोट.
गावाला योजना काहीतरी पाहिजे आमचे तर आम्ही मत देऊ नाही तर देणार नाही.
हम लोगों के लिए या यूपी सरकार ने या हमारी केंद्र सरकार ने अभी तक हमारे आगरा की पब्लिक के लिए कोई भी ऐसा मतलब उद्योग नहीं बनाया जिससे हम जैसे लोग बेरोजगार हैं. जैसे मैं बीएससी पास हूँ, ग्रेजुएट हूँ, लेकिन ड्राइविंग कर रहा हूँ. ऐसे बहुत से सारे मेरे नवीन लोग हैं आगरा में, बहुत सारे हजारों की संख्या में, लाखों की संख्या में जो पढ़े लिखे हैं, उनको नौकरी नहीं है.
Different people in different parts of the country, but speaking in almost one voice and with one tone. The mood is strong and defiant. Bereft of the usual colour and din associated with hustings, the 11th Lok Sabha elections are definitely different. All across the country, the voters' bias for local issues is quite evident. There is no wave or any one issue which arouses passion or even more than ordinary interest. The thousands of political hopefuls scouring the countryside are finding that there is enough anger and sometimes apathy too.
जब वोटें चलती हैं तो सबको जे ले फिर रहे हैं कैमरा ना दुनिया भर के है ना देव खा तो आज कोई साधन कह दे कि जे नाली डरिए जे बनवा देवे द्वारे में खम्मा लगवा देवे हेड पंप लगवा देवे तो हम वोट डालेंगे.
Last government, they have failed in controlling the prices of the commodity which are required day to day by the people, and I feel that this government, whichever government is coming into force, they should give more emphasis on control of the prices.
Public को मालूम है, जनता को मालूम है कि राम का और मंदिर का और ये मस्जिद का मसला तो ये पुराना पड़ चुका है, लेकिन जहाँ तक मेरा विचार है यहाँ पब्लिक अब इस भ्रम में पड़ने वाली नहीं है. जहाँ तक मेरा विचार है अब वोट हमें जिसको भी देना सोच समझ के देना है.
People are more concerned about the local issues rather than national issues. What I call political parochialism is sweeping the country today in terms of more regional parties, more local individuals, local leaders rather than national leaders. People think in terms of local problems, although it is a national election, but still they think in terms of local drinking water or electricity supply and things like that.
The basic issues, jobs, food, shelter and many local issues, including water, are what excite the electorate. In deep coastal Maharashtra, the locals are looking for employment, which has not come despite industrialization.
3 major changes in the elections of 1996, national election. One, that the voter is the main actor. It's not the parties, not the issues, manifestos. 2, that the party system has been so fragmented, there's hardly any party system. So the voters' loyalties, which has been maturing over the years, has reached a certain maturity this time, which we did not see before. And number 3 is that there are so many candidates. This fragmentation has led to a huge multiplicity of candidates, that it will not be unfair to give the voter the benefit of a sophistication, that he is not telling us exactly whom he will vote for.
The candidates have begun to sense this mood and are trying to touch upon local rather than national issues. No longer do they talk of liberalization or reforms, issues that are of great interest to business tycoons and industrialist lobbies, but are of little relevance to the general mass of voters.
Liberalization must be more relevant to Indian conditions, A, and B, we must have greater efficacy of the policy as far as the economically underprivileged are concerned. The priority in all economic programs has to be those who are economically backward, who are economically underprivileged, the Sarvahara Varga. And the trickle-down effect really has not taken place to the extent that it should have. And the reason for this is that government has been working in isolation.
मुद्दा है अगेंस्ट फ्यूडलिज्म, सामंतवाद के खिलाफ, क्योंकि वर्कर्स की रेस्पेक्ट नहीं है, किसी भी पार्टी की वर्कर्स की रेस्पेक्ट नहीं।
इस इलाके में इशू तो हैं कि लाइट की व्यवस्था बड़ी ख़राब है, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी की हालत बहुत गंभीर है, और किसानों का गन्ना जो है वो खेतों में पड़ा हुआ है, उस मिलें ले नहीं रही हैं, मिलें अपर्याप्त है, और इसलिए वो स्थिति आ जाती है जब गन्ना खेत में जलाना पड़ता है किसान को।
With such clear signals from the voters, which occasionally may be confusing to the leaders, veteran analysts believe that this year's elections may end up being unique.
This election perhaps is a total departure from any other election that we ever had at the national level in India, in so many respects. Number one, in terms of the campaign, the type of campaign, there's just no campaign. In fact, again, for the first time, there are 1,200 crore rupees worth of campaign has been stopped or delayed or deferred. In other words, it is accrued savings on account of no campaign. And secondly, there is no national campaigner. You know, in all the previous elections, we have campaigners of every party at the national level, at the state level. Thirdly, there are no issues, as you very rightly said, as you very rightly observed from the field. This time, there are no national issues, either foreign policy or even, as a matter of fact, the economic policies.
Very important fact that the voter has been able to relate the ballot to his life conditions. That's a very important thing in a democracy. That whatever the parties project themselves, their images to the elites, election manifestos and so on. But the voter doesn't read the manifestos. He doesn't read even the newspapers. For him, the most important thing is, what do I get out of this? He has realized one supreme truth in a democracy, that ultimately, he is the sovereign. Then he can cut you off.
सही बात तो ये है कि इच्छा ही नहीं होती है अब किसी को वोट देने की।
इंडिया में किसी ने भी अपना प्रॉमिस रखा नहीं है। So I don't think I will go for voting this year.
A mood of anger among Indian voters. Coming up, a look at the plastic product industry, and perfume makers are smelling profits in India. Stay with us.
Tuesday on Star Plus. The Extraordinary. The Extraordinary is what inspired Hitchcock's movie The Birds.
I never saw anything like this before. They were huddled in corners of buildings.
The Extraordinary is the UFO that stalked 4 women.
I just didn't want to go to bed. I didn't want to sleep because I was so scared.
Has something unexplained ever happened to you? Watch The Extraordinary to win a chance to tell your story. The Extraordinary, Tuesday, 9 p.m. India on Star Plus.
It's your chance to win a trip to the Andamans, staying at the Marina Hotel. Brought to you by Organics.
However far we've come, we can always go further. Global communications, light bulbs that last longer, shavers that shave closer. Philips believe there's always room for improvement. If we can broaden your view, advance medical science, or open your eyes, what could be better? We'll think of something. Philips, let's make things better.
The dream.
the disappointment, the hope, and the glory. As the best teams pour their passion into the only games that really count in the NBA playoffs live on Star Sports.
On the next 90210, things are getting personal.
Andre's trying to round up some people to write about some personal experiences.
Some personal sexual experiences.
Now, loyalties among friends are divided.
Very personal to me if you are not going to print it.
I am going to print it.
And no one will cooperate.
She actually wants us to go and hand out condoms on the street.
Plus, new secrets are revealed.
What is the matter?
I'm pregnant.
The School That's Cool in Beverly Hills. 90210, tonight at 8 India on Star Plus.
This is the Star TV network, and you're watching Star Plus.
Welcome back. You're watching India Business Week. Plastics have found their place in every nook and corner of modern lifestyle. And the Indian plastics industry, too, has come of age, manufacturing consumer and industrial plastic. Today, it is one of the fastest growing industries in the country, and multinationals are eyeing the domestic as well as the re-export market. Ashish Chawla analyzes the strengthening prospects for the plastics industry.
The Indian plastics industry has grown by more than 370% in the last 5 years. The industry turnover has crossed the 40 billion rupees mark, and demand in the domestic market is growing at a healthy rate of 13%. However, the industry majors are not happy with the current tariff structure. They feel that because of the difference between the import duties for the raw materials, intermediaries and finished goods, the processing industry loses out. Their margins are under pressure, and if the finished good prices worldwide drop from their current high levels, India could face dumping from international majors.
Earlier, the finished goods duties were the highest. Resin duties were at the rate of 65%, and the feedstock duties were also very high. Now, after the liberalization, the gradually duties have been reduced, and on the finished goods, the duty today is say around 65% plus CVD, whereas on the resin manufacturers, the duty is at the rate of 40%. But on the basic feedstock, the duty has come down to nil or up to 10%. So the delta factor between the feedstock and the resin manufacturer duty has increased over a period of time, and the duties between the resin manufacturer and the processed finished goods has reduced over a period of time. And this is not good for the processing industry.
On finished goods, now suppose if the tariffs are lowered, a lot of finished goods will be coming from outside, badly affecting our local industry. I'll give you an example. The toys, the plastic toys, and the other toys being manufactured here are badly affected because the duty, when the duty was reduced, a lot of toys have been coming in from Taiwan, China, Hong Kong, and our local industry is very much affected. They were running for 24 hours, now hardly they are running for 8 hours. Plus the raw material factor has affected them a lot. The dollar going up by almost 10% from 31 to 34, and the overall effect is almost 20% if you take the duty at 75%.
The biggest change that liberalization has brought about in the industry is product diversification. From a primarily lower-end consumer-based industry, plastics has become a high-technology sector. Plastics is finding usage in products ranging from airplanes to cellular phones. Companies are going in for modernization and development of niche markets in order to increase market shares.
Plastic industry is a pretty young industry. It started out about 40 years ago. It was in its infancy until then. And in the last 40 years, there's been tremendous technology development on materials, processes, and use. Now, what is happening here is basically, it's not that companies who were making products like we were making buckets 40 years ago. We haven't stopped making those buckets, we still do. But we also decided that in order to move ahead with modernization and technology, we needed to get into products which needed a higher level of engineering, a higher level of process technology, and a higher level of development, and so that we can sustain our growth.
As far as the basic raw materials are concerned, India has historically been a net importer. However, the plastic processing industry has been exporting finished products to the CIS countries and Eastern Africa. This scenario has changed now, as the larger Indian companies have gone in for technological collaborations with international majors and are now targeting the European and the Southeast Asian markets. Exports are growing at a healthy rate and are expected to touch $50 million by the end of this financial year.
In the resin, so far, we are a net importer. As far as the resin manufacturing is concerned, today, even with all the new capacity which has come in IPCL, in Reliance and Phenolics, still there is a net import of 20% of the total consumption. But in the processing goods, there is an increase at the rate of about, say, 25% per annum. And this year, of the year 95-96, we are crossing with $500 million exports. This is growing at the rate of 25%. But there is a tremendous potential for the increase in this export, which is negligible if we compare to the world scenario. And a lot of processors are setting up industries in India. Also, a lot of multinationals and big European manufacturers are also coming into the country, by which the quality of the product in India will also improve, and India has an immense potential for exports.
But despite growth opportunities, the plastic industry worldwide has drawn a lot of flack due to the non-biodegradable nature of its produce. Environment groups have been lobbying hard to cut down on the usage of plastic materials and have been urging people to switch to more bio-friendly products. However, industry majors feel that it is not the product but improper usage which harms the environment.
Basically, we are trying to show that plastics is not environmentally unfriendly. It's an environmentally friendly material, provided it's treated and used in the right way. The problem of environment and plastics is not in the nature of the material necessarily, but it's more in how it is being used or misused. And if something is being misused, whether it's plastics or it's metal or it's paper, to blame the material itself is wrong.
Plastic can also save other forms of non-renewable sources. For example, if wooden crates used for packaging fruits are replaced by plastic, more than 1 million trees would be saved per year. Per capita plastic consumption in India is less than 1.8 kilograms per annum, which is amongst the least in the world.
If you look at the raw material consumption, India probably has one of the lowest raw material consumption. But the second aspect is that the end product, that is the processing industry, is a very low barrier industry. And there is bound to be a lot of competition. So what we expect is, over the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be more volume driven rather than just margins moving up. I would probably expect margins to be flat or even reduced. But profits are going to be driven more through volumes. If you're looking at growth rates, they would be anywhere between 20 to 30%. And this does seem a very realistic figure because most of plastic is going to be used as a substitute for, let's say, products like wood, products like metal, and the inherent growth which plastics themselves have.
The key limiting factor for plastics industry in India is the availability of raw material at competitive prices. The raw material prices have been fluctuating with the international demand and supply equilibrium. This has reflected on the profitabilities of plastic manufacturers. Return on investment has been high, but the margins are squeezing. Players who can diversify their product range and meet international competition would see bumper profits in the years to come.
That was a report on the Indian plastic products industry. There is good news for all lovers of good perfumes who till now had to rely on their contacts from abroad. International perfume manufacturers are sniffing around the Indian market, and Indian companies too have plans to launch their own brands. Very soon, all the well-known perfumes might be available for the asking, as Crisanne Fichado reports.
Lipstick, eyeliner and a touch of foundation. And to complete the ensemble, the most essential of them all, a spray of perfume. A soft, flowery fragrance for the sultry mood, or a woody, strong aroma for a stimulating effect. So far, the Indian perfume lover had to rely on the friendly neighborhood smuggler or on friends coming from abroad to express their most intimate feelings. That may change soon. French and other perfume manufacturers are sniffing around in the Indian market to test if their products will find takers. An outlet in Bombay has begun displaying their scented wares, though customers can only sniff and not buy.
We've had college girls, we've had working people, we've had men, women. I didn't expect such a good response from men, but we've had a lot of men coming in, trying out perfumes. Yeah, I think they're interested. They, you know, whenever they smell or sniff a fragrance which they have no knowledge about before, haven't tried, they're very keen and they ask us, what is this? This is not so strong. This is lighter. You know, they're beginning to differentiate.
Even Indian manufacturers who had so far not ventured into this fragrant territory in any major way are researching the market, which is said to be changing rapidly.
One of the constraints which was there in the development of the perfume industry in the country was primarily the lack of good packaging material. The alcohol was based upon molasses and it had inherent spirituous odor. Now fortunately that aspect is concerned, there is some improvement in the quality of alcohol. Concentrate, which basically forms the basic mixture of essential oils, is now improved and a lot of companies are able to import good essential oils. So I think over a period of time, I personally feel that there is a tremendous opportunity in the development of perfume market.
A couple of years back, there were hardly any sales in the perfume section of the cosmetic department. But since 2 years, the perfumes are about 10 to 15% of the cosmetic department because there are a lot more brands now in the market. In the coming 3 to 5 years, if the cosmetic market and the perfume market is opened out totally with all major foreign brands coming in, the perfume section would be more than 50% of the total sales.
India has always been home to perfumes, but of the natural kind, made out of extracts of flowers and sandalwood. Attars or Indian scents have enjoyed traditional popularity, but India has not fully mastered the art of making artificial fragrances.
There are not many who are aware of the different types of fragrances, the different brand names in the international perfumes. But we have a few perfume buffs. But basically, I would say the Indians are not so aware of perfumes.
While he is aware of fragrances, fragrance types, he is not a user of fragrance. He does not, the mass of that consumer does not realize or think it necessary to use perfumes. He doesn't yet consider it a part of his grooming.
At present, the perfume sector accounts for just 5.5% of the cosmetics industry. High duties on raw materials like ethyl alcohol and a small potential market kept manufacturers away from this business. But with the duties coming down and consumer spending on the rise, the market seems full of rosy promises.
There are several new products, not only by our company, but several other companies in the pipeline. And I'm very confident that this market in the next 3 to 4 years will show a significant improvement and Indian consumers will have a lot to choose.
But the romance of a perfume, and with it the marketability, lies in the image created for the product, something that international manufacturers have turned into a fine art.
It is definitely a game of marketing. It is a business of informing consumers why they should use a certain product. It has a lot to do with how you position your product. Positioning is related to the makeup of your fragrance. You can't have a very distinctly feminine fragrance and say it's meant for males.
A customer, when they buy a perfume bottle, they not only buy a perfume, but they also buy a significant part of packaging, which is kept on the dressing table. And I think it's a long time, more or less all the top brands of the world, they have unique packaging. And to that extent, packaging plays a very vital role in the overall component of the perfume industry.
The threat of the bigger players does not bother the attarwala, who has his own loyal customers for the heavy fragrances he sells. For perfume lovers, there are clearly sweet-smelling times ahead, and they can look forward to it with a lot of joy.
Fragrant news for perfume lovers. Coming up, the water you drink may be hopelessly polluted. That's after the break.
Every Sunday, Amul India Show brings you
The biggest events, the hottest trends, and the best-known faces from around the nation. If it's happening in India, it's on Amul India Show. Today at 10:30 on Star Plus.
The Videocon 21 Bazooka. 200 watts of pulsating power. Flat and full square picture tube. Laserdisc compatible. Amongst the world's finest D technologies. Back to front. Videocon Bazooka. Videocon.
Thursday, 8 p.m., Channel V setting up a date for you with the strangest people on TV. Oddballs and mothballs. Wackos and weirdos.
I'm eating chewing gums for my breakfast every day.
Mothers and long-lost brothers.
Manu, where are you? It's been 7 years, man.
Wannabes. Vegetables. Blind dates and soulmates.
Sashu, please come back. I miss you a lot.
And even the odd face you know. They're all on Philips V People. Thursday, 8 p.m., Sunday, 1:30 p.m. India. Catch them before they get put away.
Winner of 10 Emmys and 4 Golden Globe Awards. Watch The Golden Girls. Wednesday night at 8 India on Star Plus.
Welcome back. Groundwater has long been critically important to meet the demands of a growing population. But a recent report by the Central Pollution Control Board has marked out 22 regions in India where the groundwater is polluted beyond human consumption. Industrial and domestic waste that seeps into the subsurface are chiefly responsible for this, and the pollution is almost beyond any remedial measures. Can anything be done to reverse the situation? Nandita Roy finds out.
For the children of Wazirpur, this is a convenient way to quench their thirst. They do not know that the water they are drinking is contaminated with deadly chemicals. Wazirpur has been identified as a serious problem area where the groundwater sources have become totally polluted. A study by the Central Pollution Control Board has marked out 22 problem areas all over India where the groundwater is totally polluted. This ranges from Vapi in Gujarat, which has chemical industries, to Chembur in Bombay, which is home to some of the country's biggest refineries. Another report about Delhi has identified 250 locations where the groundwater is unfit for human consumption.
In certain industrial areas, we find that the metals like the toxic constituents, they are of high order. And so also in certain areas, we have found that pollution on account of nitrates, which is again attributed to the application of fertilizers and agrochemicals.
Ironically, groundwater which occurs in the rocks below the ground has always been considered to be the purest form of water. But in recent years, groundwater sources have been polluted with chemicals like fluoride, coliform, iron, nitrate, magnesium, total dissolved solids and calcium, which could lead to diseases like decay of bones and teeth, cholera, dysentery, and also a deadly disease like methanoglobinemia, which usually strikes children. How does this pollution take place? The water table gets contaminated when the untreated domestic and industrial waste seeps into the subsurface water and pollutes the groundwater. Take Delhi's Nazafgarh drain basin area. Spread over an area of 832 square kilometers, the water in the drain basin area is highly polluted with fecal matter, heavy metals, pesticides and chemicals. Most of the industrial units of Delhi, including medium and small-scale industries, are situated around this drain basin. The dumping of solid waste and discharge of liquid waste from industries seep into the subsurface and pollutes the water. As a result, the residents in and around this area are getting to drink the poison that the city generates.
It's a huge, horrendous problem. The government is trying to grapple with it, but it's not a problem that governments alone can do. They require the cooperation of society, particularly industry, as well as citizens everywhere, so that proper drainage
is there. Toxic wastes are not allowed to run free and loose so that they get mixed up and infiltrate into the groundwater streams and so on. But legislation also is necessary.
But though there is legislation and even government regulatory agencies to ensure that the water does not get contaminated, there is lack of clarity on areas of responsibility.
Central Pollution Control Board and the state pollution control boards, they have got the mandate because these pollutions, they come under the Environmental Pollution Control Act, and they are the appropriate authority to handle these things. They should look into as to these things are not thrown in a haphazard manner so that they pollute either the surface water or the groundwater. That is their responsibility to look into.
As far as the CPCB is concerned, its mandate is to set the standards, also suggest the manner in which the pollution can be controlled. But certainly we don't have executive powers over a subject which is belonging to the state governments, or for that matter, the other organizations like Groundwater Board.
Now, international agencies like UNICEF have stepped in to assess the damage. They are looking at 7 regions in India where the groundwater is at risk because of pollution by industrial units or over-extraction.
The 7 freshwater studies that we're carrying out is a first step, really, and it's to create awareness, it's to encourage people to understand what is happening to groundwater, where's the pollution coming from. A factor that's not often understood, which is still being studied, is the impact of over-exploitation in areas which are high in fluoride, which is highly dangerous to health. And 25 million people are affected by excess fluoride in this country. And the increase in fluoride is very largely a reaction to over-pumping of groundwater. So it's all related.
But the authorities admit that the situation is almost beyond any remedial measures in most parts.
The groundwater, it will be very, very difficult to retrieve the whole situation if it gets polluted. Because once it is polluted, then you don't know how much to take out, because it has got a static component, it has got dynamic component, and then the flow process is so slow that once contaminated, it will be very difficult to retrieve the whole thing.
It depends on the type of contamination. It's thought that the contamination created by the leather industry may be irreversible. So it is a very serious situation indeed, and there has to be legislation to prevent the contamination of this finite resource. There's no real control. I can drill a borehole in my backyard, no one can stop me, and I can pump water and I can sell water. No one can stop me. So there's a real risk at the moment unless legislation is imposed.
Clearly, with lack of adequate remedial measures to check the contamination in India's groundwater resources, the future of the citizens is at stake. Today, nearly half the water requirements of India is met through groundwater, and this water is not inexhaustible. There appears to be no controls on indiscriminate use and abuse of groundwater resources.
The alarming pollution of groundwater sources. Coming up, frenzied buying in the stock markets, but that's after the break.
I'm excited.
You like entertainment?
I love it.
We are entertainment.
Then say it.
Okay, we've got candid interviews. You heard about that one? True confessions.
Mine's bigger than yours. I'm a little sensitive about that.
The films that rave.
Right.
And the stars you crave.
Don't you know who I am?
If you don't know what's going on, you're not watching E.T.
I'm sorry.
Get inside the industry. Entertainment Tonight, weeknights at 7 India, only on Star Plus.
Is there something in my head?
However far we've come, we can always go further. Global communications, light bulbs that last longer, shavers that shave closer. Philips believe there's always room for improvement. If we can broaden your view, advance medical science, or open your eyes, what could be better? We'll think of something. Philips, let's make things better.
Get with it.
Fresh ones, just what I need. Fresh ones, just for me. Yeah. Fresh ones, to beat the heat. Fresh ones feel cool, so neat.
Yeah.
Fresh ones, the anytime, anywhere freshness.
Super Bikes 1996. The biggest bike. Oh, here we go. The biggest engine. World champion Carl Fogarty defends his title as the competition crashes into Britain. Catch all the white-knuckle action of the World Superbike Championship from Donington. Monday, only on Star Sports. Every once in a while, a drama comes along that not only makes you think or feel, it makes you change.
A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh.
Life lies behind the joy, behind the pain, behind picket fences. Tonight at 9 India on Star Plus.
Welcome back. The BSE Sensex jumped up by 141 points to touch an 18-month high on Wednesday. Continuing purchases by foreign institutional investors and the record auction of 500,000 State Bank of India scrips on the NSE were responsible for the spurt. The market seems to have totally discounted the elections, and the upward trend is likely to continue.
Pivotals across the major bourses in the country soared on Wednesday. The spurt in the BSE Sensex was amongst the largest seen in a single day in recent months. The steep rise in industrials has been largely attributed by brokers to the record auction of over 500,000 SBI shares that were outstanding for the settlement ended April 16th. The auction was held at a price of 356 rupees against the NSE closing price of 319 rupees. This, coupled with continuing purchases by FIIs, has been responsible for the steep upward trend.
The week started with a very firm trend, especially in the pivotals, like the State Bank of India, where the indications from the Bombay Stock Exchange were that there was a reverse badla, which means that there was a firm trend in that share. And as on Tuesday, which was the last trading day on NSE, we again saw soaring volumes, and also we saw that the scrip was firming up, and it was coming up for a big auction. So I think this kind of trends made sure that the index was moving up, along with the fact that FIIs continue to push their buying orders.
On Wednesday, the 30-share Sensex jumped by 141 points to a new 18-month high of 3869.52 points. However, on Thursday, fresh sustained selling on the SBI counter, together with Reliance and Tata Steel, had a considerable impact on pivotals. The selling bout in the last few minutes before the trading session closed pushed the Sensex down by 33 points, and the Sensex closed at 3836.91 points on Thursday. The FII slowdown, coupled with massive unloading, trimmed all earlier gains registered during the session, and some of the specified shares recorded net losses over previous levels. Brokers recommend a wait-and-watch approach and sector-wise selection of scrips at this point.
Well, the retail investors, I think, have to adopt a wait-and-watch approach as far as their buying is concerned. As far as the sales are concerned, I could see some of the retail investors sell at higher prices. But I would recommend to retail investors to pick up fundamentally good shares in some of the industries like auto ancillary, and exports related items. Wherever there is, I think, the firm trends in the industry, for example, the infrastructure related industries, I do not see any reason for these shares to go down in values.
The top gainers of the week were Gujarat Fertilizers at 158, MTNL at 228, and Asian Paints at 455 rupees. The losers of the week were Brook Bond at 350, Indian Rayon at 495, and Bharat Forge at 138 rupees.
And finally, if the internet is hot, Java is even hotter. and both were on display at an information technology fair held in Bangalore this week. And in keeping with the global nature of the information superhighway, cyber buffs ranging from Punjab to Philadelphia participated in the show.
Internet, the new buzzword among not only computer buffs but also businessmen who see tremendous possibilities in it. But there are still many queries about the information superhighway. How does it work and what are its real benefits? To answer some of these questions, a two-day forum, Internet India 96, was organized in Bangalore, which is the information technology capital of India. Organized by Microland and co-sponsored by Sun Microsystems and Netscape of the US, the event drew visitors from all over India and abroad. Special sessions tackled all aspects of the net and some India-specific issues also. The organizers say that the event, which cost 7.5 million to 8 million rupees, was mainly a market development exercise.
The impact of the internet is possibly the biggest in as far as the society and business is concerned. And it possibly also offers the best chance for the Indian industry to leapfrog from wherever it is today to the global, in the global context, to join the mainstream. So we felt, therefore, we cannot waste too much time in waiting for the technology to come. And in line with our overall philosophy, we brought in the best of international speakers and the technologies and had this event. It's really a market development exercise for us. Our intention is to catalyze the market. Belief is that if you catalyze the market and you're able to ensure that the basic interest is created and also the information is disseminated, business will automatically come in. So we are not really looking at it as we conduct an event and therefore we get some business immediately after that. It's more of overall market development exercise.
Even more than the net, the hot topic of discussion among cyber buffs was Java, the new language which lets programmers write little applications including animations that zip across the World Wide Web in seconds. Its developers were at the fair explaining what exactly the software can do.
The Java language is a programming language that was developed by Sun Microsystems. This language can be described in one sentence, which we would like to call it write once, run anywhere, on anything, securely. What that means is really it only requires to write this application runs and run it, put it on a server, and these applications can then be able to run on anywhere over a network, either the internet or the intranet within your corporations, and on anything which is essentially platform independence. It can run either on a Windows 95 platform, a Sun Solaris, a Windows 95, or Macintosh platform. Java language is an object-oriented language, and typically for a person who are really conversant with C++, for example, I've spoken with some developers who have done C++ programming, and their kind of feedback to me was that, you know, they typically find Java very easy to learn because there's, you know, not a lot of difference between C++ and Java. For people who are non-object-oriented programmers, they'll probably have to learn the object-oriented style of programming and then go on to the language syntax specific to Java.
Internet in India is still in its infancy, but the forum showed that as far as interest in the net is concerned, Indians are no less than their global counterparts.
The cyberspace route to the 21st century, and it's good to know that India is in the front seat. Well, that's all from us, Bhaskar Bhattacharjee
and Ravina Kohli. Until next week, goodbye.
Why that thing is still out there.
Ali Walker, Martin Sheen, When the Bow Breaks, the premiere, Friday night at 9 India on Star Movies.
There's simply nothing else like it on Earth. Bali, a place of immense beauty, of beaches, terraced fields, and temples. Why do so many people decide to endure the long flights to Bali? The beaches are nice, but you can find much the same in Hawaii, Tahiti, or the Caribbean. It takes more than nice beaches to convince people to reach Bali. The real draw of this Indonesian island is its culture, exotic and fascinating to our eyes. A culture developed in part for tourism, but not yet ruined by it. Granted, nowadays there are more street hawkers and traffic and souvenir shops than when tourists first discovered Bali 50 years ago. But some experts believe Balinese art and tradition will survive the crowds, even thrive.
I think the Balinese are extremely confident, and they don't feel threatened by tourists coming here. They feel honored by the respect and attention which is given them by foreigners that come to visit their island.
Of all the arts, dance is perhaps most central to Balinese life. There are more than 200 kinds, religious, celebratory, mysterious, each telling a story through vivid costumes, graceful movements, serene, almost trance-like facial expressions. This is all so important to the Balinese that the government's established a school to teach native choreography and music.
Music and dance are really part of the Balinese way of life. I guess this is the way of preserving the tradition in Bali.
With more than 2,000 dance troupes on Bali, you can see anything from the barong dance, a classic tale of good and evil, to the kecap, monkey dance, named for the strange ape-like sounds made by the all-male choir. The cost usually just a couple of dollars for what may be the most unforgettable part of your visit. Near the village of Ubud, there's a different sort of attraction, a place where it's a good idea to buy bananas before you enter. Welcome to the monkey forest, and watch your fingers.
Nothing for you here.
Yeah, we heard these monkeys are the most aggressive in whole Indonesia. They can jump on your head.
You know, you come into this forest and the monkeys are so cute and charming. You think they must be tame, but they have a way of reminding you that they're still wild animals.
I was walking backwards and then a monkey jumped up on my back.
Oh, no.
And then I started trembling.
Katie Gonder's an Alabama University student studying the monkey's behavior. She says despite the occasional interspecies spat, man can learn a lot here.
The next 3 or 4 decades are really going to be decisive for primates, and this may be the last chance you'll ever get to see to really see wild monkeys in action.
Though their scientific name is crab-eating macaque, you quickly learn what the monkeys really crave are your backpack bananas. No arguments allowed.
Get down.
I'll give you a banana.
I mean, these are wild animals. You should treat them like wild animals. A full-grown male, his canines are as dangerous as a panther's.
Fortunately, no humans became monkey snacks while I was there. For me, the monkey forest was a fascinating way to spend a couple of hours. Admission about $1. And don't forget the bananas. On Bali, gods and nature are worshipped with equal fervor. On this island of 3,000 temples, festivals, music, dance, art are a part of everyday life. And every Balinese, man, woman, or child, learns an artistic skill. In Bali, practically every kind of artwork has a sacred purpose. They create them to please their gods. Fortunately for the rest of us, there is no conflict in the Balinese culture or religion in sharing, even selling their artwork to outsiders. At artist communities like this one in Moss, tourists come to watch apprentices create fantastically detailed wood carvings, priced from $20 to $20,000. Ida Bagus Marka is the master carver who guides them. This is commercial handicraft, Marka says, but our work is closely tied to Balinese tradition, which we hope buyers will appreciate.
Teenagers are just going crazy over this sort of thing.
Buyers also appreciate the low prices on other handmade goods, like clothes of patchwork batik.
How much does this sell for?
In Australia?
Yeah.
This is probably about 70 Australian dollars.
And here?
Well, it depends. 15.
15?
Yeah.
Another good deal, accommodation. Modest inns start at $10 a night. Or there's romantic clifftop hideaways or luxury beach resorts like the Bali Hyatt. Pricey, but still cheaper than other island getaways. The Balinese believe that heaven itself will be exactly like Bali. Even so, they dedicate themselves in this life towards creating great beauty. It's that beauty that draws so many people across so many miles, back here, time and again. In Bali, Indonesia, I'm Mike Singer.
Watch
Watch the Road Show on Star Plus.
Hi, and welcome to the Road Show.
The hottest cars, the coolest bikes, the latest trends, and the best advice.
I'm Rajiv Khanna, and you can ride pillion with me just to check out what's the latest on the streets.
If it's on wheels, it's on the Road Show. Sunday, 10 a.m. India on Star Plus.
This is the Star TV network. And you're watching Star Plus.
Tonight on Code 3, in Las Vegas, Nevada, firefighters put their lives on the line in lethal floodwaters. In San Diego, California, a rescue team attempts to lift a bulldozer that pins a critically injured man. And in Burbank, California, a disturbed father threatens to jump 3 floors with his baby daughter.
Hello, I'm Gil Gerard. Tonight we are here at the Glendale, California Fire Department, which is one of the country's state-of-the-art facilities. This is where firefighters live and train. You know, in sports there's a saying, it's not over till it's over. It means you play the game hard until the very end. Well, rescue workers follow the same principle. They treat every emergency as a life and death situation, and they don't quit until the final outcome is beyond doubt. That was certainly true in Las Vegas, Nevada, in the case of an overturned Jeep.
Paramedic Curtis Harper was on duty as a rare storm pounded the desert city.
We received a call that evening for a possible vehicle overturned in a canal, unknown if anybody was in it. And we left the station. It was raining, it was snowing, it was real cold out. So we arrived at the scene. There was, in fact, a vehicle, a Jeep, overturned into the wash. Its tires were showing, and the rest of it was buried underwater.
It's impossible to tell if a victim is pinned underneath. Harper assumes the worst.
And I tied a safety line around myself and went down the side of the canal and tried to reach into the Jeep's window to feel around to see if I could feel if anybody was in there. That turned out to be impossible. The coldness of the water, the numbness in my arms, the swiftness of the water just made that virtually impossible.
Rescuers believe the Jeep has been overturned in the canal for more than 20 minutes, but they don't slow down. If someone is trapped under the Jeep, there's an outside chance he can still be saved. Some cold water drowning victims have been revived after being submerged as long as 45 minutes. So despite the danger, the rescue team works quickly to hoist the vehicle on its side. As the Jeep comes up, the emergency team makes a dramatic discovery. The driver, 38-year-old Murray Brown, is trapped face down in the water, his body caught beneath the steering wheel. A quick check of his vital signs indicates that Brown has stopped breathing and has no pulse, what paramedics refer to as a flatline, clinically dead. Still, they refuse to quit. Firefighters prepare to pull Brown's body through the rushing floodwater. Captain Perry Hort waits on the bank.
Murray was kind of half in and half out of the Jeep. So Curtis went ahead and tied another rope around him. And then he said go, and we pulled him across.
Hort's selfless reaction puts his own life in peril.
I didn't make a conscious decision. I just reacted and went after him. I kept saying to myself, I can't let go of this guy. And then I wrapped my legs around him. And it took everything I had to hold onto the rope and hold on to him. I didn't know how much longer I could hold on to him. And this is the closest I've ever come to being killed and having time to think about it. And when I was out in the middle of that stream, there was nothing I could do about it, and I knew it. And it scared the hell out of me.
As Hort's fellow firefighters try to pull him to safety, Brown's lifeless body is transferred to a stretcher. He is still a flatline, technically dead from drowning and exposure to the cold. Hort gets out safely, and his concern again turns to the victim. Paramedics rush Brown to University Medical Center, where doctors hook him up to an experimental machine that can quickly re-warm blood without causing shock. The machine has never been tested on a human being. Brown is the first, and it saves his life.
Fortunately for me, I drowned 2 miles away from a hospital. They were able to transport me quickly. They got a heart rate on me. I had a very chilled body temperature. It was 85 degrees Fahrenheit. They were able to hook me up to this machine that had never been hooked up to another human being. There are so many factors, and it just seems like such a rare case.
I think we just focus in on our job, and to me it was to get him out. And I think I just acted instinctively. I think almost anyone that was on my crew that night would have done the same thing. We were all out doing our job.
Perry is a very modest man, but he is, in fact, a hero.
Although a new medical machine was credited with saving Murray Brown's life, it was the men and women of the Las Vegas Fire and Police Departments who made the difference. An interesting footnote. Neither department was trained for swiftwater rescues like the one you just witnessed, which makes their courage all the more remarkable. In a moment, a delicate rescue operation to free a man pinned beneath a 12-ton bulldozer.
Part of Atherton's problem is he can only have 2 men outside that circle. He's needed 2 men outside the boundary at times. And an average of over 37 in all World Cup appearances for Silva. Sri Lanka have only played 3 matches before this in this 1996 World Cup. Just failed against India. Good looking stroke, that's big.